Well, with the NFC West growing stronger and the departure of a few weapons, times have dramatically changed in the NFC West. Let's rock. All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. Today, we are finishing off my 8 episode series of division predictions, which is my division of which I rock, the NFC West. Now, this is my division of as a fan because, of course, my Seahawks are in that division. I wanted to finish it off with my team's division, which is the NFC West. But I am not a biased guy. I'm not like a Cowboy fan that overreacts after a playoff loss from crying out loud that smashes the TV. But anyways, enough about that. But we're gonna be going over that. The last few episodes I've gone over the North, and then I went over the South, and then the East, and now we're finishing it off with the West. But before we get started, if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get this video started. First up is the one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, they made a few decent moves in the offseason, signing and getting out there and drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., which is expected to be a really good receiver. I'm not buying it just yet because it is the Arizona Cardinals, by the way, which we all know have not done relevant since their Super Bowl loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers and San Antonio Holmes. But anyways, the Cardinals, I don't believe they're going to be a threat this year, but I could be wrong because the games they've had against the Hawks recently have been relatively close, but we swept them the last 2 years. But of course, we'll see what happens. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray is just straight up not a good quarterback. I believe he's overrated because he came in from Oklahoma. He was one of the top prospects, and he's not let him past the wild card round. So I believe the Cardinals, at worst case scenario, are going to be similar to what they were last year, 4-13. But at best case scenario, if the Cardinals are really good, I could see them going decently 7-10 because if the Cardinals can get back to their winning ways, this would be relatively interesting to see. But we'll see what happens. But let's move on to the next squad. Up next is my team, which I am rocking right now. You got the Seattle Mother Loving Seahawks. Let's go, baby. Oh my gosh. This offseason has been amazing for the Seattle Seahawks. Going out there and getting a new head coach in Mike McDonald, who looked like the Grinch stealing Christmas when he played the 49ers last year when he was a part of the Ravens. But the Seahawks, this team has had a surprising under the radar type of offseason. Going out there and getting guys like Rashawn Jenkins, who was a stud for the Jaguars when he was there. Also along with Jerome Baker, Terrell Dotson, and also along with Jonathan Hankins from the Cowboys, as I mentioned in the episode again when I went over the NFC East. And then also going out there and getting a few sneaky offensive weapons, including the guy known as Christian Haynes in the draft. But also re-signing Leonard Williams and getting out there and drafting Byron Murphy. I don't know about anybody else, but this defense is gonna be strong next year. This defense, I'm telling y'all right now, this defense looks scary because Mike McDonald, the whole reason that he was hired in the first place was what I mentioned earlier, was when he looked like the Grinch stealing Christmas against the 49ers. That is the whole reason why he got hired in the first place. And My point is, the Seattle Seahawks are one of the sneakiest teams. We know that in history, they have been a sneaky type of team. They've been the most underrated team in the NFL. And when I heard Byron Murphy got drafted, I was immediately thinking to when they made their mistake of not drafting Jalen Carter. I think they learned from that mistake and ended up drafting Byron Murphy, which this defense, it's gonna be scary for crying out loud when teams play this defense. But Seattle, this team could be really sneaky because their offense is still loaded and they still got DK Metcalf, who is not going anywhere, by the way. Tyler Lockett, JSN, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, and also along with AJ Barner, the rookie out of Michigan, and Jake Westover, a rookie out of Washington. We'll see what happens, but as far as floor goes, at worst case scenario, at absolute worst case scenario, the Seattle Seahawks take a little bit of growing pains to Mike McDonald's culture growing and ends up going a shocking 8-9. I'm going to go with that because that is what I could see from this team. Because if it is in fact growing pains, I would not be surprised if that happened. But at best case scenario, if this team grows from what they were last season, I believe Shane Waldron being gone, was the best thing because Shane Waldron, I could not stand that brother's play calling because it was so predictable. You bring in Ryan Grubb, and now this offense is going to be a lot better than it was last season. At best case scenario, I might be sounding biased here, but I'm going to say 12-5. And let me tell you why. Hear me out. The Seattle Seahawks have the 24th easiest, hardest schedule in the NFL, which is also otherwise known as the 8th easiest. With the teams with the Seahawks, they're going against tough teams like the Bills, the Dolphins, maybe the Jets if they are a Super Bowl contender. Also, along with the Lions, who they've owned for the last 10 games, and also along with the Packers, which we are thinking they're a Super Bowl contender. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see us and the Packers meet for crying out loud. And then maybe the Bears if they are indeed a sneaky contender. But this Seattle team has potential. I have always felt that this team is one thing away from being a sneaky contender. So we'll of course see what happens, but let's move on to the next team. Next up is the team that just lost a future Hall of Famer to retirement, the Los Angeles Rams. Now the Rams, they have lost their biggest weapon in Aaron Donald to retirement.
And it cost him. No, that 15-yard line. He's not happy about being escorted out of the stadium.
He's gone! He's finally out of here! Yes! Oh, finally, the bad man is finally gone. I was happy when he won his Super Bowl, but now I'm glad he's retired now. Finally with a ring, other than unlike JJ Watt. Sorry. But anyways, the Rams are going to be slightly more diminished than they were last season because of the loss of Aaron Donald. I think it's going to take a massive toll on the Rams, but I'm still not leaving them out of the picture because they still have Matthew Stafford, they still have Puka Nacua, they still got Cooper Kupp, but I'm not sold on this team of being back in the playoffs because the Rams are going to have some growing pains. Although Jared Verse seems like a really good player, we need to see what he can do. He played in one of the worst conferences in the college level, which was known as the ACC, which is a fact. But, anyways, this Rams team, at worst case scenario, is they take a massive toll and end up going 5-12. If at worst case scenario. But at best case scenario, I could see them going 9-8 because the Rams, they're not going to be the same without Aaron Donald. They might make the playoffs, they might not. I'm not so certain yet. But, anyways, let's move on to the last team. Last but not least, you got the defending NFC champion, the San Francisco 49ers that lost in the Super Bowl again.
Time to abandon ship.
The Niners. I was so hot on them. I've been hot on them for a while now, actually, because I do not understand something. How do you have the most talented roster from a season ago to then eventually become the worst, to eventually lose in the Super Bowl, by the way? You had the most stacked roster you could ever ask for. One of the most stacked NFL rosters in NFL history, by the way. You had Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy, and also along with Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Jeremy Ward, Chase Young, and also along with Eric Armstead. And on top of that, you lost yet again in the Super Bowl. Again, I do not care what people say. Steve Wilkes should not have been fired because we all know who the man responsible is. It's Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, I could not stand that somehow being let off the hook. I do not understand why he's being let off the hook. Because, number one, he has been to 3 Super Bowls in his career in the NFL, both as an OC and a head coach. Lost all 3 of them to double-digit leads. That's number one. Number two, the Niners have been in this position for 5 years. They have gone to 3 straight NFC Championship games. The first one they lost to the Rams, the second one they lost to the Eagles, and then they beat the Detroit Lions in the most recent year, where they would go on to lose to Kansas City, who they have not recorded a win against, who I actually believe that they are even scared to go against the Chiefs, for crying out loud.
No, 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 no. Wait, wait, wait. Wait, 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 wait.
Because the Chiefs, you had the best possible opportunity that you could have had. The Chiefs, the entire season, were dropping passes left and right. I mean, they led the NFL in drops and offensive penalties. You lost to not just Patrick Mahomes, but probably the worst offense that he had worked with. And now he is stacked with one of the most talented offenses. They have Jared Wiley, Xavier Worthy, also along with Marquise Hollywood Brown, Rasheed Rice. We are waiting to see what happens with him, and of course Isaiah Pacheco. You cannot tell me that you lose to Mahomes when he is as weak as that. I mean, I was pulling for them. And I'm a Seahawks fan. My grandma is a 49ers fan. And I heard from her, her words. She believed that Kyle Shanahan should have been fired. And I completely agree. If they do not get to the Super Bowl this year and win, Kyle Shanahan's going to be gone, period. Because he is primarily responsible for each and every Super Bowl and playoff loss that he has had with the 49ers. During this past year, during Super Bowl 54, they had a 10-point lead going into 7 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. What did they do? They gave 21 unanswered points to the legendary man that we know of today as Patrick Mahomes. And then a few years later, they went into the NFC Championship game against the Los Angeles Rams. What did they do? Lost a 10-point lead once again to your most hated rival. Then you went to the NFC Championship against the Eagles. What did you do? You had four injured quarterbacks, which I could totally understand why there was not any pressure on him, because there was that is just a rarity. Losing four quarterbacks in a season, that is rare. But you got blown out, and then you had this past season where you had a 10-point lead and you had the lead at halftime. What did you do? You gave it up in overtime because you didn't even know the overtime rules, which is ridiculous. And you ultimately gave it up to the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what it is with this team. They seem to have a curse lingering over this franchise. They seem to have this curse that constantly comes up, which is what a diehard fan that I used to work with actually said. But I'm starting to believe him, because you do not have that many opportunities and choke the bag in every single one of them. You had 5 years, and now 6 to go out there and win a Super Bowl. How many Super Bowls do you have to show for in Super Bowl wins do you have to show for in the last 30 years? 0. No, nada, none. The last Super Bowl you won was when Steve Young was your quarterback, and I wasn't even born yet. I'm being flat out serious when I say this. The Niners, they are a Super Bowl or bust team this year. And if you cannot finish the job, if you are Kyle Shanahan, you have got to go, period. Because you do not go 5 years without winning a championship. Now 6, when you are the head coach with the 49ers. And especially when you lost that 28-3 lead against TB12 and the Patriots. But as far as that goes, I just had to do that rant because I was heated when the Super Bowl lost. But anyways, as far as floor goes for this team, we know that the last time they were Super Bowl runner-up was when they had lots of injuries. That following year, which they lost the division. I'm going to go a similar route. In worst case scenario, you got a load of injuries, and Kyle Shanahan ends up sending this team to a losing season, which I don't think is going to happen. But I'm going to say 7-10 at the bottom record that they could possibly get. But best case scenario, they end up coming back and going 12-5, because we know that the 49ers are still one of the toughest teams in the NFC, but in the NFC West is going to be challenging. But we'll see what happens. But now it's time to get into my divisional standings. But first, coming in last place, no surprise here, the Arizona Cardinals. Because the Cardinals, I don't think they're going to be really good this year, because it's Kyler Murray. And if he gets injured, they're screwed. And then third place, I'm putting the Rams there, because the Rams, they are going to have a few growing pains from Aaron Donald and from losing Aaron Donald. But second place, I'm going to put my team, the Seahawks. I'm not biased like Cowboy fans, and I'm being realistic. The Seattle Seahawks are not in the same exact point as the 49ers yet. Because they still have growing pains to go through. And unlike the Niners, the Niners are losing. They need big time money to keep the guys that they had there. You had the best chance you could last season, and you couldn't do it. But I do see the Niners winning the division again, even though it pains me to say it, because I'm realistic. I go over by the stats. And I'm not like Cowboy fans, like I mentioned earlier, that absolutely smash TVs. anyways, to recap, Niners 1, Seahawks 2, Rams 3, and the Cardinals at number 4. Let me know in the comments what you guys think down in the comment section below. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the NFC West. Now, I don't expect the Seahawks to win the division, but if they did, I mean, I'll be surprised if that did, which I'm not expecting at all, by the way. I'm not expecting it at all. I am maybe expecting a playoff spot, but not division wise, as far as I'm concerned. But, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you all in the next one. Yeah, for now.